everyone. Have a good turnout. It seems like time to get started. So welcome everyone to the 2026 IARPIC pre-field season meeting. I'm Renee Crane. I'm with the U.S. National Science Foundation, Office of Polar Programs. Following a reorganization, I'm now the acting section head for Arctic Research Support and Logistics section. And we work closely with the newly created Polar Sciences section, which sponsors several of the projects we will hear from today. I'm also the federal co-lead for the Field Operations Community of Practice in the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee. I co-chair that along with David Allen and Katie Smith. And also supporting the Field Operations Community of Practice are Maisie Thomas, Tracy Curry, and Hazel Shapiro. So thank all of them for helping to put this meeting together. So FOCP is excited to host today's meeting for a preview of all the ship activities planned in the Arctic in 2026. At today's meeting, our guest speakers will share information about upcoming research cruises, and our team will facilitate some discussion about the planned research, outreach, and community engagement. So thank you to everyone who's presenting today, everyone who's representing your research projects and volunteered your time to join us. I encourage everyone to please do introduce yourself via the chat. Share with us your affiliation, your location, research project title, or other information that is relevant to this group today. So I will turn it over to David Allen. He'll follow, or actually, David Allen in a moment will follow up with some more information about the specific goals of the meeting, but I will first pass it over to Hazel with the IARPIC Secretariat. So thank you everyone for joining us today and anyone who's viewing the recording.
We can actually go straight to David. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Renee.
Perfect.
Thanks, Hazel. Thanks, Renee, for bringing us up to speed. Welcome, everybody, to the 2026 pre-field season meeting. My name is David Allen. I'm a program manager with NOAA's Arctic Research Program that sits within the Global Ocean Monitoring Observing Program in the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research and co-lead of the Field Operations Community of Practice. I want to thank all of our presenters and investigators for contributing to the pre-field season meeting, and of course to the mooring and vessel matrices that have already been at least completed for round one. I also want to thank our co-sponsors from IARPIC, the Marine Ecosystems and Sea Ice Communities of Practice, and of course all of my collaborators in the Field Operations Community of Practice. Next slide, please. Interestingly, I can't see the slides. Let's see. So as a reminder, our goals for the meeting today include providing an open space to share information and identify common themes or potential to work together during planned field activities. We also hope to improve communication and engagement between researchers and Arctic communities and share community-based observing activities and concerns. And then finally, we want to share research and communication plans with research community and Alaskan and Arctic coastal communities to avoid potential conflicts. We want to make it clear that this pre-field season meeting does not preclude or replace researchers being in direct contact with communities prior to and during their field activities, but rather this is an add-on to communication and knowledge sharing. Next slide, please. We are very pleased to announce that the 2026 Research Vessel Matrix was recently launched and can be found at the link that was just placed in the chat, and also with using that QR code that is right in front of you. A big thanks to Maisie Thomas for the huge lift here. So please check it out when you have a chance. I think we're on a really high level right now, representing a significant amount of cruise activity, despite all of the challenges that surround research in many different aspects. This tool was developed in 2016. I think Renee was one of the founders around this table, and it was founded in the hopes that researchers could use this information to coordinate activities and that communities would use it to understand what vessels are in their waters and how to contact them if necessary. Since then, we've made modifications to improve accessibility and usability of the research vessel matrix, including a calendar view, organization of activities by region, and inclusion of a broader range of scientific activities, including mapping and fishery surveys. Next slide, please. In addition to the website, there are various places to find information about the matrix, including those listed here. And we will also share a link to sign up for the newsletter by signing up. You will receive email alerts when the matrix is updated, which we will do throughout the season. And this ensures access to the most recent and accurate information. Next slide, please. We also want to highlight that the mooring matrix can be accessed from the same page as the research vessel matrix on IARPA collaborations. This resulted in an early discussion with Bob Pickart, who I believe is going to be presenting today and is on the call right now. He had maintained this list for a number of years, just as a collateral responsibility of being a good steward and part of this research community. But we have taken that on over the last couple of years, and will continue to do so in FOCP and share that information as broadly as possible. By sharing the list of mooring locations, we aim to inform the scientific community and vessel operators of the locations of the moorings presently deployed in the Bering, Chukchi, and Beaufort seas. This, we hope, will reduce the risk of damage to the moorings and facilitate collaborative scientific activities. People, by being able to view this information, should be able to say, oh, look, I'm looking for data in this particular region, and there happens to be a longstanding scientific mooring in that region. I can reach out to that researcher and see whether there's data available on that particular issue. For a variety of reasons, not every project engaging in Arctic research vessel-based work will be represented, although we have done our best to provide an overview of most of the research projects, and everyone is welcome to contribute to future pre- and post-field season meetings and the research vessel matrix and mooring matrix. And if you know of folks that are not necessarily represented here, please let them know that we're out here and share our contact information, and we'll be happy to represent their information. Finally, you'll note that federally funded Arctic researchers are expected to follow the SHARE principles for conducting research in the Arctic. These principles highlight the importance of researchers to sustain and build relationships, provide a respectful work environment, be accountable to the commitments they make, be stewards of the Arctic environment, and communicate effectively and respectfully, particularly when working within communities in the Arctic and engaging with Indigenous experts. Research should be an enriching experience for everyone involved, including people of the research team and the people in the Arctic. We've listed some useful materials to reference before and while doing research in the Arctic, and we'll share those resources with you in the chat. Now I'd like to turn it over to Katie to MC the first set of presentations. Katie, it's all in your hands. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, David. So my name is Katie Smith, and I am a contracted science project manager with NSF's Arctic Research Support and Logistics section, and I'm so glad you're all here with us today. So here's a quick overview of today's presentations. We will have 3 groups with 5 minutes of discussion after each group, and then a larger discussion at the end as time permits. Reminder to our presenters to keep it to 5 minutes each unless presenting on multiple projects, and we'll try to put 1-minute reminders in the chat. So with that, we're just going to jump right in. So next slide, please. So this is the overview for group 1. And so we're going to start with Alex Andrews about Eastern Bering Sea Juvenile Fish Fall Survey. So next slide, and Alex can take it away.
Great. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't know how I got the honor of going first, but I'm excited to speak with you. Thank you for the invite and for the opportunity to hear about all the research going on in the Arctic and subarctic. I'll be talking about the Eastern Bering Sea Juvenile Fish Fall Survey. Many people have known it as by the name of BASIS. well, and I'll just introduce, so I'm the chief scientist on this survey, Alex Andrews, and I work in Juneau, Alaska at the Auk Bay Laboratory as a fisheries biologist, research biologist. BASIS, interesting history. It's in about the 25th year, close to 25 years BASIS has been going on. And it started out as a juvenile salmon survey, targeting juvenile salmon in the Bering Sea, their first summer at sea. We were catching lots of all species of salmon, but we realized we were catching all fish in the pelagic zone, and including a lot of gadids, important gadids, pollock, Pacific cod, and along with forage fish, capelin and herring. And we realized our data was more important than just juvenile salmon. So it's really become in that 25 years, not only all the fish in the pelagic ecosystem, but also just ecosystem survey, collecting a lot of data, and we can get into that. Next slide, please. So this year, and just another thing about BASIS is it used to be an annual survey. It's now a biennial survey. We were last out in the Eastern Bering Sea in 2024, before that in 22. So this year we have 24 days at sea. You can see the dates. 22nd of August, we depart Dutch Harbor, and we end our survey in Kodiak on the 14th of September. This is going to allow us to get our core grid, which is represented by the black triangles. We've really, as budgets and days at sea have shrunk over the years, we've kind of contracted to the middle domain in the southern Bering Sea, which is the middle domain is represented between the 50 and 100 meter bathymetry lines, the shelf. And there's a lot of important things going on there. But for many years, we've wanted to continue. In the early days of BASIS, we sampled the middle domain in the northern Bering Sea. And that area is going to get a lot of attention in the next 5 years with Northern Bering Sea Integrated Ecosystem Research Project. But we'll be moving into the Northern Bering Sea a little bit to supplement some of that sampling that's going on in the Northern Bering Sea IERP. And it's an interesting place to be, especially in years where the ice doesn't extend into the Southeast Bering Sea, and that cold pool shrinks back to that area around St. Matthews Island and further north. Yeah, we'll be on the Oscar Dyson, so it's a NOAA vessel. You can see it pictured here, and actually here's the crew in 2024. Next slide. So the mission, as I said, it's expanded into a full-fledged ecosystem survey. You can see the gear types kind of listed at the bottom. Everything from oceanography casts, and I should have said on that last we're doing oceanography only stations, and then we're doing core trawl stations, which include oceanography. And at those stations, we're doing a variety of fishing gear, from surface trawl, which is sampling the top 25 meters of the water column. We're now using a Nets 156 pelagic trawl, which we fish obliquely. We have a 3-meter beam trawl, which we did a little sampling in the mid-teens, 2000 teens, and we're doing it again now for mainly for snow crab essential fish habitat, monitoring juvenile snow crab, and that's Luis Koopman's work. We have a method trawl. We're sampling using acoustics. We're identifying krill sign, and we're sampling krill layers to get an idea of species composition, energetics, and generating an index of krill in the fall during our survey. Next slide, please. So, I mean, mainly we're trying to identify these changes, fairly dramatic changes, as many of you know, between these climate stanzas, warm and cold climate stanzas, and connect those with often commercial commercially, but also ecologically important species. I've listed a few things just that I think would be important for communities, certainly forage fish distributions with their importance with marine mammals as marine mammal prey. We're doing a lot of harmful algal bloom sampling with Kathy LaFay. Of course, all the zooplankton assemblages, and that's actually where we see a lot of the changes with the oceanography and the ice edge. We're seeing, big changes in zooplankton species assemblages between years, and the lipid, and that's important for how energy is moving up through the food web. That's all, I think, very important to coastal communities. Next slide, please. We don't have a lot of outreach planned at the moment. We will be working with the Northern Bering Sea IERP. And given that we're generally offshore and further south, we don't have the daily emails that have been instituted for a lot of the work in the Arctic and Northern Bering Sea. Next slide, please. And just to touch on again some of those ecosystem data streams, data sets that we're collecting, everything that you can imagine from oceanography to phytoplankton to zooplankton, ichthyoplankton, fish, catch per unit efforts, and energy, diets, and HABs. A lot of our data is being housed in ACFIN. Please reach out to us if you have any questions about that.
Yeah, Alex, if we can just start to wrap up.
Yeah, okay, thank you. A lot of our data, and I think it would be of interest to people if they want to get a sense of some of the data coming off this survey is in the marine ecosystem status reports for the Bering Sea. Next slide, please. Here's some of our participants in this year's survey. Please reach out to me. That we have 10 to 12 scientists on board. There are often berths available, and if you're interested, I'll put a link in for our sample collection requests for people that may have interest in, if they can't come out or we can't make space for them, we can at least try to collect samples that people are interested in. Next slide. All right, thank you very much.
Great, thanks so much. And we'll go right into our next presentation. So Allie, take it away.
Thanks, Katie. I'm Allie Tessin. I'm a biogeochemist at Kent State University. The cruise that I'll be talking about today was funded as part of an NSF career grant. Next slide, please. So you'll also notice that there's going to be a lot of similarities in some of the areas being sampled and some of the analyses being done between this presentation and the next presentation. That's because Bob and I have been kind of co-planning efforts. We will be out at a similar time on the Sikuliaq and the Healy. So I'll be leading operations on the Sikuliaq. These are our tentative dates of kind of mid-October to mid-November. With sites that you can see here spanning the Chukchi and Beaufort Seas. The sampling sites, as you can see, are made up of a series of transects that go across kind of land to sea boundaries, but also shelf to basin. And then within this map, there are also, along each of those transects, a series of coring sites and other seafloor sampling. Next slide, please. Okay, so the overarching goal of this work and my project is to really think about remobilization of iron and other metals, nutrients, and carbon between the seafloor and the water column. So this can be really important because iron availability can be a limiting factor for primary productivity, but also because those minerals that host iron can control other biogeochemical cycles within marine systems. So the project has kind of a set of both modern and paleoceanographic objectives, so both trying to constrain what is actively happening within seafloor cycling in the Arctic, but also trying to take longer records to extend that back into the past and use past climate events as a way to understand kind of how things have changed under climate conditions that we can't observe. So to do that, we'll be doing a series of water column and sediment sampling. As I mentioned before, this is being done kind of in conjunction with a cruise on the Healy. And so that includes sediment sampling, which has surface sediments being sampled by grabs and multi-cores, and then longer cores, which include both gravity and jumbo piston cores. We'll also do water column sampling, underway measurements, and then some bottom mapping, including some work in collaboration with NOAA. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, what's happening on the seafloor can really control what's being trapped and removed from the ocean versus what makes it back into the water column. So iron in particular, but also nutrients that cycle along with iron can be either trapped or released. And these nutrients make up the base of the Arctic food webs, and so they can have impacts on primary production all the way up to higher levels of the ecosystem. These minerals can also trap toxic trace metals, which means that dissolution of the minerals can release those trace metals into the water column. So it's really important for us to understand what's controlling those dissolution versus precipitation processes of these seafloor minerals. And then finally, we know that iron cycling, not just within the seafloor, but also within the terrestrial environment is changing, which means those fluxes between land and sea of metals like iron are really changing in a way that's impactful to communities within these Alaskan Arctic regions. The really obvious way that we've seen that in recent years is these orange rivers flowing across the Alaskan landscape, which can be a real problem for water quality. Next slide, please. So we will have a community observer on board, and we do plan to do daily emails. If you're interested in being included, please just reach out to me. I also am going to be continuing some work that we've been doing with ANSIP, the Alaskan Native Science and Engineering Program, where we work with middle schoolers and help develop curriculum and activities for them to understand these Arctic research projects that we're doing. We also do ship-to-shore science talks for other K-12 institutions across the US, and I'll be doing those on this expedition as well. And then, as I mentioned before, this is part of a career grant, and so there will be a series of planned training opportunities, both for students that are on board the vessel, but also students that will be following remotely from Ohio. Next slide, please. So, I'll just mention that we are doing we have a broad plan of water column and sediment geochemistry. Those planned analyses are listed here. For time, I won't read through all of them. And then our data will be archived with the Arctic Data Center. Next slide, please. Excellent. So our science party has expedition participants across a number of universities. And again, I mentioned that we'll be working with NOAA to do that seafloor mapping. We currently don't have birth space, but if people have interest in other data collection or equipment, just reach out to me. And as I mentioned before, our data will be available publicly, both at shipboard and post-expedition data. Next slide. That's it. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bob, you are up next.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Bob Pickard. I'm a senior scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, Department of Physical Oceanography. And the title of my project is Monitoring the Western Arctic Boundary Current in a Warming Climate, Atmospheric Forcing and Oceanographic Response. It is funded by NSF's Office of Polar Programs, and in particular, the Arctic Observing Network. And this has been ongoing since 2010. Next slide, please. So this year, our cruise is going to be on the Coast Guard cutter Healy. You can see the dates, late September to mid-November. This is a station map that looks a bit like Allison just showed you in the last talk. We will begin our science operations in Bering Strait and we'll work through the Chukchi, around Point Barrow, and head into the Beaufort, and we hope to get as far east as the first entrance to the Canadian Arctic Archipelago, and if ice conditions are conducive, possibly even getting up into the second entrance, McClure Strait, north of Banks Island. I want to point out that we are doing transects, as you can see. The long-term mooring that's been in the water since 2002 for quite a long time now is the red dot on the DBO line, DBO6 line. And I also want to mention that we'll be doing some mooring work for Seth Danielson's group, this Chukchi Ecosystem Observatory. Next slide, please. So the primary aim is to monitor the physical state and the biogeochemical properties of this Western Arctic boundary current, or Beaufort Shelf Break Jet, if you will. And we relate what the data that we get to the atmospheric forcing related to what's happening through Bering Strait, and also the interaction with the adjacent basin. And the overall goal is to determine the role of this boundary current in the regional ecosystem as the climate continues to warm. The goals of this cruise in 2026 is to service this long-term mooring that's been in the water, and then carry out a broad-scale hydrographic survey of the boundary current system. And you just saw that in the previous map. As Allison said in the previous talk, this cruise is being done in conjunction with the Sikuliaq cruise. We've done a lot of co-planning. Our ships will actually intersect at some point. We'll be at the same place at the same time, and we'll do some joint sampling in the middle of both of our cruises. As far as activities, we'll be doing mooring work, water column sampling, sediment work, both grabs and multi-cores, underway measurements. We'll have a seabird observer on board, and we'll be doing bottom mapping. This is, again, similar to what Allison said. This is done by NOAA, and we'll do some buoy deployments. Next slide, please. So why is this research important? Well, there is substantial shelf basin exchange that occurs in the Beaufort Sea. And in fact, roughly half the year, this part of the world is subject to either downwelling or upwelling storms. So that's a lot of mesoscale activity. And these events strongly impact things like ice melt, freshwater distribution, ventilation of the halocline, nitrate flux that comes onto the Beaufort Shelf and drives primary productivity, and also onshore flux of zooplankton and influences bowhead whale feeding. The Western Arctic boundary current is both a conduit and a source for these harmful algal toxins that impact the ecosystem health. And importantly, our data allows us to assess and also quantify these downwelling and upwelling wind events that I mentioned. And the downwelling events, they have storm surges that negatively impact the coastal communities. And this has been a cause of concern, and it's becoming more of a concern as the ice vanishes. I wanted to mention there's a large number of ancillary projects that are going to be on a cruise, and they're going to shed light on different aspects of the ecosystem from the lower to the upper trophics. Next slide, please. We will also have a community observer on board. That person will liaise with the communities along the route. We'll send out daily emails with various information. And if you're interested in getting on that email list, just give me a shout. For outreach, we will have renowned author Dallas Murphy. I'm pleased to have that be the case. And he'll be writing a series of essays that talks about the science and life at sea and the Arctic environment under stress. If you'd like to tour the vessel, please contact Haley's science liaison, Ben Alsip. His email is there. Next slide, please. All right, here's all the types of data that we're going to collect. I'm not going to go through that list. If people are interested, they can look at it during the recording. I will say that the data are archived both at the Arctic Data Center and also at the HUI Aon site. And as far as a community product, we have been maintaining what we call the Chukchi climatology of shipboard acoustic Doppler current profiler data in the Chukchi Sea. And we add to that every year. It's available. The first version is available there at the ADC, and we're going to release version 2 later this year. Next slide. Here are the different organizations involved in the field program. We possibly have one berth available. Please contact me if you're interested. We definitely have space for other measurements. I wanted to point out that all Aon data are publicly available immediately after the processing is done. And yes, I'd be very pleased to collaborate with members of the community. Next slide, please. All right, extra slides. I'll show again the map of our cruise, and I also wanted to include a mooring diagram of this long-term mooring. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bob. And we're going to move on to Emily, item for the next two presentations.
Awesome, thank you. Well, it's a privilege to get to represent the initial phase of fieldwork for the NASA Forte project. This is a huge project with many investigators, and I'm just going to touch on a very small piece of it today. Next slide, please. So I'm representing UW and OSU. Jim Thompson and Laura Jaranek and myself are going to be working this fall to deploy 4 very small moorings very close to shore in shallow water offshore of the Colville Delta. We have 4 sites selected, 2 in front of the Colville, 1 in front of the Coop Park, but it's going to be outside the lagoon, and 1 in front of the Sag River. Next slide, please. We're going to be out for 3 days on the RV Ukpik, which allows us to access this very shallow water. We'll be mobilizing out of West Dock and Prudhoe Bay. And our goal is to deploy these pretty vulnerable high-risk moorings in a place where we are very excited to try to measure some of the spring freshet processes during breakup. A lot of these measurements are focused on biogeochemical interactions in the coastal ocean, as well as the physical dynamics. We have deployed moorings in this area before that have survived over winter, so we're trying to strategically position these so they can ride out the winter and be there to catch that spring freshet. Next slide, please. The overall goals of the Forte project are to link complex hydrological, biogeochemical, and ecological processes in the Arctic. So the overall program includes a very large field campaign to support an even larger synthesis of remote sensing and modeling efforts to basically better understand these coastal ecosystems and these really sensitive transition zones and be able to better model those and better observe them using satellite data. So this initial mooring deployment is the first part of a much larger field effort. There will be a lot more activity going on next year with more boat-based observations, drifters, moorings, aerial activities. And more information about all this is available on the Forte website, and there's a link there. Next slide, please. In terms of community outreach, we realize this portion of the coast is somewhat sparsely populated, but the Forte team has already done a really great job of meeting with folks in Nuiqsut. They have visited the community there. They have started some engagement activities with them, and I know that they're looking forward to continuing that in the future. We will be out on the Ukpik for a very brief time, but if anyone is interested in connecting with us, I will have an inReach out there, and we can certainly share contact numbers if you'd like to communicate with us while we're there. Next slide. The moorings will be outfitted with a variety of sensors. We'll be measuring salinity, temperature, turbidity, PAR, dissolved oxygen, water levels, waves. And these are going to be very low profile bottom packages for obvious reasons of avoiding ice. But next summer, we will be revisiting them and redeploying them with more comprehensive sensor packages in combination with drifters as well, so we can get the upper part of the water column. All these data will ultimately be made publicly available. They'll be going into the NASA CBAS system following all of NASA's open data requirements. Next slide. Oh, that's it. Cool. Okay, I'm going to put on my other hat and move to a completely different project. This is an NSF-sponsored project called Coastal Freeze, and this is being led by Maddie Smith at Woods Hole and also being done with Jim Thompson at UW APL. And I'm actually going to present fieldwork that represents the wrap-up of this project. We did our main field effort on the Sikuliaq last fall, which was a great success. Next slide. So the main scientific focus of this project is to understand feedbacks between landfast ice formation during the fall storm season, surface waves, and sediment transport. So, we know there's a lot of these big scale observations and predictions of losses of sea ice in the Arctic, but this nearshore coastal zone where the landfast ice forms is really critical. And just indicating that you have a longer open water season doesn't necessarily translate into days of exposure at the coast. You have to think about what that landfast ice is doing in concert with the broader offshore ice climate. So we had a big field campaign last year. We had drifters out there. We deployed moorings last September, many of which are still out there right now. And we wanted to see the coastal zone go through this whole transition in the fall and measure that interplay between ice formation, wave dampening, sediment resuspension, and sediment entrainment in the ice. Next slide. So this is our wrap-up cruise. This will also be on the UKPIC. We'll actually be doing this right before the Forte work. We'll be out for about a week, and we are going to go recover bottom packages that we left at all of these sites last fall. There's 3 different transects for a total of 7 or 8 mooring sites, and we are going to recover everything. So it should be a pretty fast recovery. Next slide. Along the way, we'll collect a few CTD profiles. I have an uncalibrated PAR sensor on one of those packages. We'll probably collect some list particle size profiles and a few seafloor sediment grab samples just to provide some added context to complement our measurements from last year. And those will all end up in the Arctic Data Center. Next slide. We're excited about this project and the added data that it can bring to coastal community resilience. So ultimately, we see these data feeding into better models of coastal vulnerability and coastal erosion, again, by trying to address that key transition period. And I'm also really interested in using the data about sediment entrainment in sea ice to think about coastal and shelf erosion budgets. We have evidence now that the Beaufort Shelf is eroding, at least in the inner part of it, inshore of 10 meters water depth. And we're trying to build a better budget of describing how much sediment is leaving that shelf every year through the sea ice, since that appears to be the main mechanism for removal. And I think that might be the last slide. Is there one more? Oh, that's it. Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a few minutes for questions for our first round of presenters. So either feel free to raise your hand or put a question in the chat. Oh, we have David. Go ahead.
Sure. So thanks for the presentations. And I don't know if we necessarily intended this. I imagine Katie might have when she was thinking about this agenda, but there seems to be an obvious question. And I'm wondering whether there's any connection between the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and 5th in terms of data sharing and collaboration, given the very similar areas of work going on. And I recognize that there is a funding agency nexus there, but just curious whether y'all are planning on working together. Thanks.
So I can give a quick answer, David. Ali and myself on the Sukuliak and Healy are in touch with the Forte group, and they will not be sending people on the vessel, but they will be taking some measurements. We'll be taking some measurements for them. We realize that we're sort of pre-Forte, but we have been in contact and we're trying to coordinate.
Any other questions? Well, if you think of other questions, you can ask at the end when we do our general discussion. With that, let's just go ahead and move right into group 2.
Hi again, everybody. Maybe we switch to the next slide. So this group will cover a few different cruises, and including the Northern Bering Sea Integrated Ecosystem Research Program, which will be a theme as the field work progresses for that activity over the next couple of years. EcoFOCI, and then moving into the Bering Strait Mooring Project, as well as Jackie Grebmeyer, who will be presenting on a variety of different cruises, some her own and some international because of her connection through PAG and DBO. So I guess we may as well go to the next slide and get started with Kay McMonigal. Kay, please take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kay McMonigal. I'm a physical oceanographer at UAF, and I'm going to talk about the UAF-led component of the Northern Bering Sea Integrated Ecosystem Research Program. There's also 2 NOAA-led projects, but those are not conducting field work this year, so I think I'm the only one talking about one of the IERP projects. Danielle is also going to talk about the IERP program in more detail tonight at a straight science presentation, if anybody's interested. The lead PI of this project is Sarah Minks, so I'm kind of giving this on her behalf. Our team consists of a number of different researchers, mostly at UAF. And then we also have Ben Pungawi from the native village of Savunga, as well as Dion Nungwik. I don't have a good photo of him, as from the native village of Savunga. Next slide. Our cruise is on the RV Sikuliak. The planned dates are September 1st through September 17th. And on the right is a map of our planned stations, which are the blue triangles there. And then there's a number of moorings shown on that map. The ones that are SL1 through SL6 are these IERP moorings that we are planning to deploy on this cruise. This is a joint effort between UAF and NOAA PMEL, and we're kind of working together to ideally get 3 full years of data at all 6 of these sites. We are also planning to deploy the M8 mooring for NOAA PMEL, and then there are 2 moorings from the NSF-funded Action cruise, which are not shown on this, but they're kind of in the same general region around St. Lawrence Island. Next slide, please. Our mission is to understand how stratification and fronts influence ecosystem dynamics in the Northern Bering Sea. So we want to characterize stratification, nutrient dynamics, and productivity, and then investigate how stratification impacts plankton communities, and link that then to particle composition, aggregations, and benthic pelagic coupling. So kind of a brief summary of what we'll be doing. We'll have approximately 25 water column and sediment sampling stations, where we will take a number of different measurements. Of those, about 5 will be intensive stations where we will do incubation work, and also we have some pumps to collect particles in the water column. Then we have those moorings, which will collect year-round physical and biogeochemical data, and we have a towed plankton imager that will give us high-resolution physical and biological data, so we get images of zooplankton like what's shown on the right there. Next slide. This is important because we hypothesize that density interfaces control the magnitude and quality of organic matter supplied to the benthos. And if this hypothesis turns out to be true, then it would be really important to understand how stratification changes year to year, and also how it's going to change into the future to better understand the benthic ecosystem. We also have funds to support development of community science on St. Lawrence Island. So both to kind of start developing a community science center, as well as to develop some local expertise. And we want to actually house a data archive on the island so that they have all of the data to look into anything of interest. Next slide. I'm going to skip this one. Next slide. We have project partners at the native village of Savunga, and we have annual travel planned both for UAF scientists to go to Savunga, as well as for people from Savunga to join us at various project meetings. We conducted trips to Savunga in April 2025 and 2026, and we're also planning to have 2 community members from Savunga join us on the cruise. We will do email updates. Not sure if it'll be daily or not. If you want those updates, email me, or you could also email Sarah Minks. And then NPRB is coordinating a more comprehensive outreach plan across the entire program. So I would leave that to Danielle or Matt Baker if you have questions about that. Next slide. We're collecting a lot of different data. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can look for your favorite measurement here. We will have this high resolution towed data. Then we will have CTDs and water samples where we are taking a number of different measurements, sediment samples, the year-round moorings, and then kind of in the other category, we'll also have an IFCB for flow cytometry. We'll take turbulence microstructure profiles, and we have marine mammal and seabird observations. And this will be hosted on Research Workspace along with all of the other IERP project data. Next slide. Our berths are full, and most of our scientists are from UAF, but we also have some from JAMS Tech, ETHZ, OSU, and perhaps Fish and Wildlife Service. We've already done a lot of coordination with other groups, so we're kind of limited on time and ability to take additional samples, but if you have requests, please send them to me or to Sarah, and we will consider them. Similarly, if you would like the data on a quick time turnaround, let us know, and we can kind of talk to the relevant team lead about whether or not that would be doable. Again, we're working with the native village of Savunga directly, and we're really aiming to have 3 years of continuous mooring data. So we might be asking for help down the line to turn those moorings around. And I think that is it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kay. Now I'd like to welcome to the floor Ryan McCabe, who will be presenting on behalf of the Ecosystem Fisheries Oceanography Coordinated Investigations Program at PMEL. And Ryan, I'll just turn it over to you since they're, and you're covering at least, I think, 4 cruises. So, and thanks so much for jumping in at the last minute.
Yeah, so I'm tagging in here at the last second. Can you hear me, first of all? Okay, wonderful. Okay, there's 4 different activities that I'll kind of try to briefly touch on, or our spring and fall mooring cruises. We have an Arctic mooring cruise that was put together a little bit last minute, let's say. And then there's also an Ecofoci sail drone mission that's going forward this season. Next slide. Okay, so next slide, we're starting with the Ecofoci Spring Mooring Cruise. The chief scientist on this cruise was Sean Bell, also from the Ecofoci program. He encountered a family emergency, had to leave the cruise. They're currently still out. Thankfully, Dave Kimmel, our close colleague at AFSC, stepped into the role of chief scientist. We're extremely grateful for him. And the guys are out there, as I said, right now. They're doing a fantastic job. They're a little bit ahead of schedule, and they are looking at a little bit of weather coming their way. But basically, their mission is to to turn around some of our long-term moorings in the Bering Sea. You can see the kind of clusters there. They've made it all the way up to just south of St. Matt's Island to do what we call our M5 mooring. They're also sampling a lot of CTD bongo stations that are in the Southeast Bering Sea that aren't shown on this particular map. I believe they're setting up to do another mooring at the moment. I just got a message from folks earlier, but this is ongoing and they're making fantastic progress. Next slide. Okay, so next up, this is our Ecofoci Fall Mooring Cruise. I've fortunately been chosen to be chief scientist on this cruise. Next slide. We're referring to this as our Mission Impossible. It's covering a lot of ground. It's Kodiak to Kodiak, starts in early August, goes to September 1st. Out of Kodiak, we have a BOEM-funded project that's focused on cetacean occurrence in and around the Lower Cook Inlet area. And so we're going to deploy some moorings in Kennedy Stevens entrances in Chillicothe Strait and do some transects there before heading out into the Northern Gulf, hopefully doing mooring turnarounds along the way. We'll then proceed up into the Bering Sea to turn around our core Ecofoci long-term biophysical moorings in M2, M4, M5, M8, as well as some others. And then that's when we get up to around St. Lawrence Island, and thankfully Kay McMonagle is working closely with us to help us get quite a bit of this mooring work done. And we'll try to also conduct some transects up there off of St. Lawrence Island as part of the NPRB, Northern Bering Sea IARP. And then hopefully come back to Kodiak fully successful. Next slide. Okay, so I'm just in the, let's see here. So basically our mission here is to maintain our long-term biophysical moorings, and then also we do conduct a lot of CTD, bongo, calvet type sampling. Most of it's all of it is focused on lower trophic level dynamics. Next slide. I guess, let's see here. Yeah, so this work is to basically to help support sustainable management and, as I said, long-term ecosystem measurements. I should point out that this is the 32nd consecutive year that we will be occupying the M2 site in the Southeast Bering Sea. Next slide. This is NOAA data, so it's publicly available. It's sometime a little bit piecemeal in different places depending on funding and stuff, so reach out. Next slide. Okay, so the next one is what we're referring to as our Arctic mooring cruise. The chief scientist is going to be Sean Bell at this point in time. Next slide. This cruise is happening thanks to some folks at GOMO who were able to identify a nice short little space to sneak us into some ship schedules. This is going to be on the NOAA ship Fairweather. This is happening because the NOAA Arctic cruise wasn't funded this year. And so the Fairweather is not really outfitted to do ecosystem sampling and mooring work. So we're not really going to have any CTD bongo capabilities or the types of stuff that we would normally do on the Arctic cruise, like sediment grabs and things like that. So this is a mooring specific cruise to try to turn around on long-term moorings in the Chukchi and Northern Bering Sea. As I said, it's Sean Bell's chief scientist. It's sort of mid-September to the end of September, 16 days. Next slide. Okay, and then finally, there is a EcoFoci sail drone mission that's happening as well. Shidong Zhang is the chief scientist. Calvin Morty has agreed to help lead this. Next slide. For the EcoFoci group. Essentially, there's two sail drones that will be leaving out of Dutch Harbor. One is the Voyager, one is the Explorer. The Explorer goes a little bit slower, but they'll rendezvous at our M2 site in the Southeast Bering Sea, conduct some sampling for a few hours, and then the Explorer will move along kind of up that mid-shelf region all the way as far north as M8 before heading back down to Dutch Harbor. The Voyager sail drone is actually outfitted with a profiling CTD. And so we're going to send it north. It'll stop and sample at some of our long-term sites. And then we're hoping to get some transects done off of Cape Lisburn out to Herald Shoal, maybe across the Central Channel and back down our long-term icy Cape line that we keep 4 moorings on. At this point, our latest discussions suggest that there probably won't be enough time to get out to the Chukchi slope, but it remains on our wish list, let's say. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan. Great job. And now we'll turn it over to the Bering Strait Mooring Project. I believe I saw Cecilia Peralta Fariz on the line, and I guess you're going to be presenting on behalf of your team with Rebecca Woodgate. So Cecilia, please take it away.
Thank you, David. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I'm Cecilia Peralta Fariz. I'm physical oceanographer at the University of Washington. And yeah, Rebecca was not able to join us today, so I will be speaking about the team's projects for this fieldwork year. A project is funded by the Arctic Observing Network from NSF and the North Pacific Research Board. Next, please. The cruise is scheduled for 8 to 18 of September. This will be on board the Norseman 2, and the map on the right shows the track that we are planning to follow. And it covers the Bering Strait and the southern Chukchi Sea. However, if weather prevents us from going north, as it has happened in the past, then we instead we run lines south of the strait. Next, please. Oh, thank you. Okay, the mission of the Bering Strait project is measuring and understanding change in the oceanic flow through the Bering Strait. The goals are to quantify year-round the physical and biogeochemical properties of the waters moving through the strait, and to understand both the impacts and the causes of the changes in these properties. A summary of the activities include the recovery and the redeployment of moorings measuring water properties year-round. These are 3 moorings. And we will be taking hydrographic sections and water samples for nutrients and trace metals. And we also run repeat sections in the Bering Strait to assess short timescale change. Next, please. Why is this research important and to coastal communities and beyond? Well, this project assesses the properties of the oceanic flow through the Bering Strait, and in a sense, it tells us how much water comes through, what temperatures they have, what salinities they show, and what nutrient content it has. And these properties, how these properties are changing, the data we have from the start of the program is from 1990. It shows that the flow is increasing, it's warming, and it's freshening. And it also suggests that it's most likely that the nutrient flow through the strait has also increased. We're investigating how the flow is changing, and we find that both Bering Sea and Arctic change are the culprits of these changes, especially the winds, and these impact mostly the flow. And impacts on the flow and its changes on the Chukchi and the Arctic and beyond include that extra flow influences Bering and Chukchi ecosystems, and that the oceanic heat influences the next year's Arctic sea ice, and I will show a plot later in next. And then extra nutrients fuel ecosystems north of the strait, and the freshening modifies the upper Arctic Ocean. So we are trying to understand what drives all of these changes. Next, please. Now, I don't speak linearly as quick as Rebecca, but what I show here is a plot of the Bering Strait annual mooring means from top to bottom, the transport, the temperature, salinity, the heat, and fresh 1990, and all the way to what we have now, a full years until 2024 so far. And with some gaps in the early 90s and mid 90s. And on what we see from here is that the data shows that the flow is increasing, it's warming, and it's freshening. And I'm also listing here the oceanic flow through the Bering Strait, how it impacts places not just in the strait, but beyond. And I think I froze, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. And trends and high year-to-year variabilities makes it vital to continue the time series for local and Arctic issues. Next, please. Okay, and just very briefly, something we've been excited besides the fact that we can look at what changes, long-term changes have been, is that now we count on 3 years of data from nutrients. And this data suggests that nitrate replenishes by advection, and it's nearly quasi-invariant in the winter. We also find that the heat content in the strait is not only affecting the onset of the melt in that same season, but it also affects the summer-fall sea ice in the following year. And this suggests a possible prediction scheme and highlights also the need for moorings, for models to correct and simulate Bering Strait properties correctly. Next, please. In terms of communication and outreach, we are only going to continue to service our website, in which we have the cruise reports and the products that we continually gather and collect. And we also have the highlights of the papers as well. But we also are going to continue with the school outreach programs in the Seattle area, and we are working on scheduling an in-person strait science in September. Next, please. Data to be collected is year-round hourly mooring measurements of some of the properties listed here: water velocity, temperature, salinity, and the biogeochemical as well, ice thickness, ice velocity. And we also run the hydrographic sections during the cruise, and those will include the water sampling for nutrients and the trace metals. The data will be archived in the National Centers for Environmental Information and also in the Bering Strait Mooring Project website. And if you just Google Bering Strait moorings, that will take you to the website very, very easily. And if you don't see the data or the data products that you want to see there, please just contact Rebecca and we'll see what we can do to add them there. Next, please. Okay, for potential areas of collaboration, this cruise is going to include participants from the University of Washington and also Oregon State University. And it is possible that we still have berth space, but please contact Rebecca on this. And the same goes for the space for equipment and to collect data for other teams. So we are always happy to team up with others and run other experiments aboard. And the data will be available, yes, as I said, in NCEI and also in the website. And opportunities to work with tribal and other communities. We're open to suggestions here, so please be in touch. And for collaboration needs, we only ask for others to be aware of the mooring locations so that they try to keep operations at least 300 meters away from those sites. And thank you. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. We'll have time for Q&A immediately after this section, and then we'll have a longer Q&A a little bit later on in the discussion, as mentioned perhaps earlier. Now I'd like to turn to Jackie Grubmeyer, who's going to present another sort of omnibus group of presentations, starting with the 2026 DBO C3O cruise, which is a longstanding collaboration with the Canadians, the Beaufort Gyre Observing System cruise, and the Oshiro Maru 2026 Arctic cruise, and finally the K-Aware cruise that the Koreans are putting forward this year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie, please.
All right, thanks, David. Yes, I'm just you can read the acronyms if you don't know what the DBO and C3O, but this is a collaboration that's been going on since about 1998, and I'm at the University of Maryland Center of Environmental Science. And you can see on the bottom, we have funding for this particular cruise by NSF, and then we are doing some collections for NOAA. We have Fish and Wildlife, NASA involved in this also, and the University of Washington. Next. So the expedition is July 16th to 27th at the Canadian icebreaker Sir Wilfrid Laurier. They're currently over on their way to Japan for an annual conservation work with the Japanese, and then they come back and they'll pick us up in Dutch Harbor this year instead of Nome. And so this will give us time to set up, and we'll be running a continuous zooplankton collector on the way from Dutch up to our first DBO1 site. When possible, we do our pre and post cruise discussions with the AWC. We are communicating with local Alaskan coastal communities, and I'll show you some of the outreach we have planned, such as the straight science talks, as well as with meetings in Utqiagvik. And then we're looking forward to podcasts and local radio. Next. So this does continue a 26-year time series that we've been working on through the various, depending on which DBO. So the whole mission of the DBO is developed as a change detection array. So we've been doing consistent monitoring from temperature, salinity, satellite observation, water column, sediment measurements, macrofauna focused, and looking at seabird and marine mammal observations. So we're looking at the Pacific Arctic ecosystem and what the changing drivers are, which we have already been identifying with the sea ice change and warming, and environmental drivers on the biological community. We do have standardized measurements. We are detecting change, particularly in the northern Bering Sea, south and north of St. Lawrence Island. And I've been actually quite a bit of media discussions this week related to the potential unusual mortality events on gray whales because of the major decline that we're seeing in prey base. We are sharing our results nationally and internationally with our partners and available on public sites, which I'll show you. We also are doing some collections on harmful algal blooms, more so with some NOAA support this year. And as I said, marine mammals and seabird observations. So we have underway obs, we have water column measurements. You can see on the list there, I'll go over those in a minute again. And seafloor observations, including looking at benthic imaging. Next. So as far as the why is the research important, as we know, we see these drivers changing. They have an impact on the biological system, and as was mentioned previously, on the current regime changes, freshening, warming, going through Bering Strait. So we're using this standardized measurements that have been going on to track status and change of the marine ecosystem. There are zooplankton measurements made by our Canadian colleagues, as well as CTDs, and those observations are then actually put into the Arctic Data Center. We're looking at those as a prey indicating for a healthy ecosystem for some of the marine mammals and seabirds, which are important for coastal community food security. Biodiversity is underway. We see this changing all the way across the system. And as I said, a lot of it, particularly in the northern Bering. And also, I've already mentioned the HAB work, and we have those satellite, those collaborations with other agencies. Next. So are you planning community? Yes, we're planning to do outreach activities post-cruise in Utqiagvik, and we're also arranging with Gay Sheffield to do a straight science talk from sea during the cruise. The communication is via the Canadian Coast Guard bridge activities that's maintained. We have, to get on the vessel, we have all had to go through FBI clearance, which we just cleared everybody this week to get on the ship. But in the past, the captain has invited local leaders, particularly off of Utqiagvik, but we did it when we used to be able to go through Bering Strait, but now because of situations, we can't actually go on the island anymore as a foreign vessel, but it's a Canadian decision. Next. So as the data collected, I've kind of outlined it. The standard ones, the ship collects, weather. So we're looking at flow-through systems, temperature, salinity of those measurements, DIC, particular organic carbon, nitrogen. We're looking at harmful algal bloom components. We look at the taxonomy of phytoplankton, zooplankton. That's also being done by genetics. That's the Canadian component. Macrofauna, which is what the US side does. And then, as I said, the collaboration for seabird and marine mammal observations. You can see where the data is linked there. It's the Arctic Data Center. It's also at the looking at the NASA website. There's the NASA page for satellite they're updating for observations. The seabird data goes in the seabird database. We follow the fair and care principles, and you can look at more information at the dedicated DBO CTD site website. You can see there, and I would point out if you click on that, you can actually connect to the specific web page at the Arctic Data Center and the associated links for that. Next. So then collaboration, we do work with within our team at the University of Maryland, but Clark University, Karen Fry has the lead on that. In Canada, Paul McCond is the chief scientist for this, and we work also with the University of Victoria. And how much, unfortunately, we are limited in the number of spaces we're allotted. There's a total of 16, 10 come to the US side, 6 to the Canadians. Is there space for, we are doing ongoing, as I mentioned, HAB and collections. We also are going to be deploying a glider for Seth Danielson due to we don't have the NOAA Arctic Ecosystem Cruise this year. But also we collect sediments for USGS, for ostracods, and also zircon, which is kind of a time capsule of where the sediments came from and where they're going. And so we do collections for other members of the community. Can you make a data? It's all available on the Arctic Data Center. It also goes to the NCI and SCA and other of the international Canadian components. Opportunities, we are doing this visit. We have outreach activities, so we try to do community visits when the opportunity arises too. And we are sharing the data with the DBO network. So the DBO has an international components, and I'll mention that next in a couple of examples. Next. So then we go to the international part of it. I just put this up. I'm going to show you examples from Canada, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. All of these we have discussions on part of the Marine Ecosystem Community Practice under IARPC, and you can see this kind of rotating thing on the right there, multi-agency connections related to that interaction. Next. So then when we, just to start off with, we'll go with Canada and Paul McCon and Sarah Zimmerman, who Paul will be the chief scientist on our cruise too. It'll go out on the Louis. On this particular example, it's the Joint Ocean Ice Studies and the Beaufort Gyre Observing System. And you can see on the upper right, where that mapping and where they're going out on their cruises. It's September 17th and October 22. They will go Cambridge Bay to Cambridge Bay and work in the Canada Basin. They have moorings, recovery and deployment, a lot of CTDs, biogeochemical sampling. They use zooplankton, XCTDs, and ice observations. And you can see where the data dispatches on the lower right. So when you see this on the YouTube, you can get further information or even contact me or Bill, whose email is on, I can provide. Next. And then, so if you go, there's another program called, it used to be BREA, which is basically looking at it's an acronym they have for and I don't even memorize all these, but it's the Beaufort Regional Environmental Assessment, and they've now changed it to the Canadian Beaufort Sea Marine Ecosystem Assessment. That's that other acronym. The main thing I see in the DBO is that they've got DBO8 that they're tracking, because that's an important area for gray whale feeding, and so it's become part of the DBO system. and you can see the information. This is provided annually in the Pacific Arctic Group report out. That report and all the PowerPoints associated with the national and international, US and international, have been posted now on the PAG website, which is available. I think I have a link where you can contact me, and that's available for everybody to review. Those are presented annually during the Arctic Science Summer Week and in the fall, which will be in Canada when we have our fall Pacific Arctic Group meeting. Next. So they do standard measurement. I put this one up, and I know time is going because it's got Craig Lee's Davis Strait Gateway program, and it's going to be done off of the Amundsen this year. All of these cruises have temperature, so, you know, CTD standard measurements, but they also have, you know, they're doing different things depending on the different types of cruise, but a lot of environmental evaluations. And I see my time is up. Next, I think this is the end of it. Oh gosh, oh, Shore Maru, I got to fly through this. The Shore Maru, this is, the Marai has now been retired. And so the new Marai will come out starting in 2027. So the Oshira Maru will do a training cruise. You can see the information here, hydro surveys, there'll be plankton, ADCP. They're going to be looking at fish and benthos, sediment sampling, and also microplastic. And they're going to be coming as far north, just a little bit up by, they'll be doing DBO 1, 2, 3 area, and then working up to, you can see where it is north of Bering Strait. Next. And so the next one here is where you can see it better, the Oshira Maru. They'll be doing the DBOs, as I mentioned, and they're going to be going north. And then when they come back, they'll be doing primarily XCTDs. Next. Then you could go for Korea, it's the Korean Arctic Ocean Warming Response Ecosystem. They have a whole new program that's following this starting in 2027. But they do long-term monitoring. They do physical process, biogeochemical ecosystem response. A lot of interest in the Central Arctic Ocean Fisheries Agreement. They've got a really great modeling work being done, and they also have a really nice data center, the Korean Arctic Ocean Data System. All these links are available in those open PAG reports that are on the PAG site. Next. And then this just shows you, this is the leg 1 part, and you can see the type of measurements they're doing on the right there. They do ocean sea ice. They go through across the in the U.S. area. Then they get out to the Chukchi borderland in the East Siberian Sea. Part of that is the development of the East Siberian Sea DBO that's under development with Korea and the U.S. Next. And then that's a question and answer. I'm done. Thank you.
So thank you so much to our presenters in this segment. I recognize that Jackie and Ryan particularly had a really heavy lift, but I think all the presentations were excellent. So we have a couple of minutes to for Q&A. If there are any burning questions right now, please feel free to ask. Oh, I see Bob's hand up, so please go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, David, there were so many moorings that I saw in all of these talks, which is super exciting. What amazing coverage we have as a community now. I just wanted to implore everyone to make sure that you have all of that information in the mooring matrix that was talked about early, so the rest of us going out know where all your moorings are. Thank you.
That is an excellent point for information sharing, as well as for ideally ensuring the safety of your precious, and in this case, in many cases, irreplaceable moorings. So please try to get those on the mooring matrix, and we will also share those. I believe a colleague from the Marine Exchange of Alaska is also on this call, and we can share that information and make sure that it's posted on the Marine Exchange's website as well. Any other thoughts or questions around the table? And please feel free also to, if you want, if you don't feel like speaking up, you can also put a question in the chat.
The only thing I would add is, does the website, I haven't checked the quintillion cable locations, the Latin longs. Remember where the cables are going all the way up through the Chukchi and into the Beaufort. If they're not there, they should be. So I provided to all the captains of the cruises, and we used to have that available to everybody. I would just point that out. It might be worthwhile having that so people don't grab the cable.
That's also an excellent point, Jackie. And I don't know that I can speak to whether those cables are on the maps, but I think that would be a really valuable thing to add, because that can take the entire North Slope offline for weeks and months. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts around the table about that.
It takes Nome and Kotzebue offline as well if the cable gets. Thank you.
And
So-
David, I saw some people had the like clap expression. I don't know if they were trying to do the raise hand. I saw Sikuak Erickson. I'm not sure if they were trying to chime in, and someone else who I missed who it was, but just
Yeah, so please feel free to speak up if you have questions, or we can defer some of those questions if you think they're longer burn questions. We can defer those to the longer discussion at the end. I see something from Stacy. Do you want to go ahead and ask that, or do you want to just ask in the chat?
I see this is about the renting space. I would put that to Gay Sheffield because she's the one that's up in Nome.
Okay.
I know they do outreach a lot, the Koreans when they come, but I don't but I know they rented that space. Gay, is there an update on that? Are they still working in that lab?
I missed the first question.
Korea is it
Korea.
Remember they had
Yeah. I have not heard. I don't think they are, but I can double check that and get back to you.
Great. Stacy asked that question.
Stacy. I'll get back to.
Yeah, Kay, that's in the chat if you want to weigh in, and I'm sure for the good of the group it would be interesting to see that exchange. So her message is in the chat, so please feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the next tranche of presentations? If not, I will turn it back to Katie.
Not a question. I just wanted to compliment Emily Idam on what has got to be the best logo for a project in existence.
Okay.
I think it was Coastal Freeze or Arctic Freeze with the polar bear and his ice cream and the sunglasses. I thought it was great.
There's a shout out to Emily and Maddie for that logo. I'm sure there's a story behind that. With that, I'll turn it over to Katie.
Yeah, we love a good logo. And speaking of, I always love the backyard buoys one. So Shayna, if you're ready, if you want to take it away.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We'll be presenting on the backyard buoys on behalf of my co-Is here, so I'm not going to list them all, but we've continued to add people onto our backyard buoy program, so we get more groups added. Okay, next slide. So these buoys are deployed around June to October. It all depends on the ice, and they're small wave buoys, just about the size of a basketball. And this year it looks like we have 1 to 2 going out in a fog neck right off of the native village. We have 3 going off of Quinnahock, 1 going off of Nome, 1 Savunga, 1 Gamble, 3 Point Hope, 3 to 6 Wainwright, probably 6 to 10 Ukjavik, and then 1 to 3 Koktovik. And the vessel it's deployed by subsistence hunters in each village. So this isn't a big huge research vessel. This is individual community members. Next slide, please. And really the goal of this program is to empower Indigenous and coastal communities to collect and use all the wave data that complements their existing knowledge. So really it's these vessel captains are the ones from each village who have picked locations, who have deployed these SOFAR ocean spotter wave buoys, not wavy, but that might be a new name for them. And the timing is open water season, ice dependent. So generally the ones at Quinnahock go in earlier June versus the ones in Koktovik don't go in until like later July. So it really depends on the timing of the ice and when the facilitators are open to be able to deploy these guys. Next slide, please. So this is the coastal communities. This is their program. We're a funder of this. So it's kind of really, the research is important. It's more that the information is shared to make decisions out on the water to see what's safe. So it's the technology really supplements the Indigenous knowledge. And you can see from these 2 pictures, these are listening sessions and working sessions. The one on the top right is with the search and rescue team out of the Cusco Bay. They're the ones who are really excited about these programs. They're doing drifters as well as these wave buoys to try to help with that search and rescue in that area that continues to get hit. And then in Barrow, that was a meeting in 2022 where we were listening to kind of what they needed. So the app is developed with input from our Indigenous communities to view the data on the phone. And next slide. So we've done a lot of outreach on this. I think a lot of you have heard about this for quite a few years now, but this was really developed by the community members since 2021. They picked the buoys, they picked the deployment, the retrieval, all of the information. We give funding directly to the communities through AWC, Nalakuk, Native Village of Afognak. We help them with whatever they kind of need, especially the permits, but really it's community led. And we don't really have a daily email because the buoys, once they're deployed, they're available for everyone. And all of the resources are available on the Backyard Buoys website. And the final slide, I believe, is all of the data. So the exciting news is now all of these data are available on the AU's data portal from 2022. I'm sorry, the first one was 2023, 24, 25. So we have 3 years for a lot of the communities for the entire 3 to 4 months. All of these data were shared by approval from the community members. They really wanted this to be shared. It's now ingested in the National Weather Service to try to improve the weather forecasts. And we have all of the data on the portal, but there's also an app that is now available through either Google or Apple. So if you just go to this website, to the data website, you can get the information. And I have the links there for you. So you can either use the link or the QR code. And there may be one more slide. Yeah. So this one's the other really cool thing that we've been adding is this is the Friends of Backyard Buoys. And I worked with Kay last year to get these out there. So if you are deploying SOFAR spotter buoys or similar, including micro swifts, we can get this information on this app. That way community members, barge members, like whoever is out there wants to get information on waves. And what we get is its wave direction, wave period, wave height, sea surface temperature, and barometric pressure. So you just have to create an account on that Backyard Buoys dashboard and create a group name. I can help you with any of this, and we can get added buoys on here so that during the open water season, there's all kinds of information on wave information. Last year, we were able to get a Licktock, Nome, Gamble, Yukon River Delta, Chignik. So we'd like to continue to add more in 2026 so that everyone has access to this. I think that's it. Thanks. I'll put the links in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over. I'm not sure if Bill or Irina is presenting for Pacific Walrus Research Expedition.
I'll do it. So yeah, my name is Bill Beatty, and I'm presenting this with Irina Trikonova. We're co-leads for the Pacific Walrus Research Expedition. So the research expedition is going to leave Nome on June 4th and return to Nome July 2nd. We'll be operating in the normal area we've been operating the past few years in the Northern Bering Sea and the Chukchi Sea. We'll be on the Norseman 2 again. And we've got a pretty significant communication outreach plan. Anytime we are within 50 nautical miles of a community, we contact them via email and try to call the tribal office or the village office to try to talk to folks and see if hunters are out or in the area. Also just to keep them aware. We've sent letters out to communities a few weeks ago to notify them of the upcoming expedition. We also present at the annual hunters meetings in Gamble and Savunga. We had special outreach trips to Ukqiavik Wainwright this past spring as well, where we present on the research expedition. We also present at the Eskimo Walrus Commission, at the Kayasik Walrus Commission as well, and of course, Straight Science. During the expedition, we email a group of stakeholders up to twice a week, and we basically post those emails or have the CIs for Walrus Outlook post those emails online. So the motivation for these research expeditions is to evaluate walrus population dynamics, and the goal is to collect data to do that. And so there's 2 big data streams that we're collecting when we're out there. The first one is biopsy samples from walruses hauled out on sea ice. This is for genetics. And the second one is the age structure of walruses hauled out on sea ice, and this is for survival. So this is the final year of a 3-year project to examine walrus population dynamics. So, and we're looking to estimate abundance, survival, reproductive rate, and population trend with both of those data streams in a framework called close kin mark recapture. Once all the data are available, they'll be deposited at the Alaska Science Center Walrus Data website, and it'll be made available according to DOI policy. So this research is important because Pacific walruses are a vital cultural and subsistence resource. So ivory carving is that cultural side of things. It acts as it allows artists to keep local traditions and that have been going for millennia. But also ivory carving acts as an outreach tool for the subsistence way of life, especially for folks in the lower 48. But obviously Pacific walruses are a major subsistence resource for coastal communities, including those communities on St. Lawrence Island. And so with sea ice loss continuing, it's likely going to result in a population decline, which could put that harvest at risk. Last slide. So the expedition includes participants from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Geological Survey. I work for USGS Arena as a contractor for Fish and Wildlife. We don't have any available berth space this year, but we do have space for other equipment, and we're willing to collect other data for teams. We've done this in the past, and we're happy to do it if we can. And again, our data will be available online following DOI policy after QA, QC, and analyses, along with all the code that we use for all the analyses that we do. And the really cool thing about this research expedition is that we have 3 Alaska Native walrus hunters that are full research cruise participants. So they're expected to do everything that the rest of the science crew has done, and they do it really well. And as of right now, we don't have any collaboration needs. We're just looking forward to transitioning from the field portion of this project to data analysis in the fall. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We will move on to Jim.
Well, hello, everyone. Good to see all the exciting research that is planned for this year. I'm going to just provide a brief overview of the NBEST survey, the Northern Bering Sea Ecosystem Surface Trawl Survey. And there's a lot of folks that are involved with this expedition. I'm the chief scientist, and kind of the key. Well, let's move on to the next slide. So the survey will be 31 days, starting and ending in Dutch Harbor. August 24th is the start of the survey. Will end September 23rd. It'll be conducted on the fishing vessel, the Northwest Explorer. We'll have a port call in Nome midway through the survey on September 9th. Next slide. So maybe just a caveat, I kind of made up the mission. So it may not be the same as the other people would describe it, but it really is a full interdisciplinary research survey focused on the ecosystem status of the Northern Bering Sea, and specifically to improve our understanding of how warming climate is impacting resources that are harvested for both subsistence and commercial purposes. Some of the key goals of the survey is to support the research that's funded through the Alaska Sustainable Salmon Fund. This is a fund that specifically supports salmon stocks that are harvested for subsistence. And this year will be the first year of our support of the North Pacific Research Board's Integrated Ecosystem Research Program. And of course, the survey supports NOAA Fisheries. It's led and run by NOAA Fisheries. Kind of a key focus is international salmon science, but obviously the Arctic science by NOAA and ecosystem research by NOAA too. So there's just a wide range of goals within NOAA fisheries that the survey supports. So we do the full suite of oceanographic conditions. We have a C2D with a rosette. So we sample everything from eDNA to nutrients, and we also sample zooplankton with the bongo net array. That's both 150 mesh as well as the 505 mesh bongos. We also, at each station, we also sample the benthic community using a 3-meter beam trawl and a bottom grab. And that, a lot of the focus of that work is with the Kinesides, the snow crab, juvenile snow crab, but also with harmful algal bloom samples and sediment. We sample the pelagic fish population with surface trawl. Of course, a key focus is on the salmon, and but also early life history stages of commercially important fish species. And we also have had seabird and marine mammals observers on the survey every year since 2007. So they're a key part of the survey as well. Next slide. And as everyone is aware, it's just this warming climate, loss of sea ice are just causing these, particularly in the northern Bering Sea, this unprecedented change. And I think everyone recognizes that we need to understand how this warming climate is impacting, in particular, some of the subsistence and commercial fisheries that are very essential to communities and regions, and also to provide guidance on the future harvest management. Next slide. As usual, we will are planning to give a straight science presentation through this winter. We regularly provide real-time information in the survey, and reach out to me if you list. And yeah, as I mentioned, we'll have a port call in Nome on September 9th, and contact me if there's any interest in coming to visit the vessel. Next slide. We'll have scientists from NOAA Fisheries, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. All the sample requests have already been closed for this year, but if there's samples that folks are interested in, please contact Andrew Diamond, and we can work on trying to collect samples. So next slide. And I think that's it.
Great, thank you so much. Moving right on to Suzanne.
Everyone, those presentation so far. It's very excited for me. I'm going to talk about the Alaska Fishery Science Center bottom trawl surveys we are conducting every year. Next slide, please. So we're the Alaska Fishery Science Center, part of NOAA. We conduct surveys that look at pretty much everything in the water you can see with a bottom trawl as our tool, and we count and measure everything we encounter. Our main research area, so there's two large survey efforts every year that we do. One of them is the Bering Sea, which includes the northern Bering Sea and the eastern Bering Sea. And then we conduct one survey in every even year in the Aleutian Islands, which will be this year. And in the odd years, we actually are conducting the survey in the Gulf of Alaska. So this is a map of the Aleutian Islands and the stations that we are randomly selecting to go and visit during the survey. Next slide. Oh yeah, also we conduct this on chartered fishing vessels. In the Aleutians this year, it will be the Ocean Explorer and the Alaska Provider. This is a map of the Bering Sea survey areas. And And the vessels platforms will be the Alaska Knight and the Northwest Explorer. In the Bering Sea, you can see that there is like basically the area gets gridded, and every grid will get sampled. And so that has been done since the 1970s. Whereas in the Gulf and in the Aleutian Islands, we have randomly selected stations. So the stations are different every year. Okay, next slide, please. So the mission is to have fishery independent surveys to monitor the trends and the distribution and abundance of ground fish, crab species, and all other species we encounter. But we also collect oceanographic data and support the stock assessment and ecosystem status reports for the federal managed species in Alaska. So the main goal, one of our main goals, is to monitor population and environmental trends for managed species. We also then produce fishery independent biomass and abundance estimates. And we also collect biological data such as length, weight, stomachs, food habits, and age structures. We also collect other environmental data such as temperature, and in some cases chlorophyll in the areas that we go to. Next slide, please. So this is important to the communities, especially in the Northern Bering Sea, and we have conducted like outreach events through the Straight Science Talks in Nome every year. We also contact the communities to let them know when we go into the Northern Bering Sea waters. We usually try to go there every other year, so not every year we will be present in the Northern Bering Sea. And then it turned out that the local community was really interested in these temperature maps. I'm going to show the maps at the end of this talk so you can kind of see for them to understand what the temperature is like in the areas that they are currently hunting, fishing, or living. So we send out weekly emails on the survey progress, but we also have a website now where you can track this every day. Next slide, please. So as I said, we have an outreach event in Nome, but we also this year will have an outreach event in Dutch Harbor to inform the community of our survey, what we're doing. People can meet the scientists, ask questions, and it's really supposed to be a community outreach event. Yeah, next slide, please. So the key parameters, what we're collecting, as I said already, is abundance, length, weight, age, and then the counts of all the animals collected. The data now are hosted in several areas where the public can access them, and we have these great outreach websites or websites where it's all summarized. So please visit that. I will put it in the chat when I'm done. And we have research briefs and photo galleries also for the public. So our team has really tried to create an access to the data for every scientific and community members. Next slide, please. So in the past, we have always taken student volunteers or scientists that would like to go on the survey. However, in the last several years, travel has been very difficult for us to do for invitational guests. So the last 2 years, we were not able, unfortunately, to host any other scientists and volunteers, but hopefully next year that will be resolved and we can start getting people to come on our service again. And so if you are interested in that for the future, please contact me, and we have a whole coordinating team that will kind of loop you in into participating in our survey. We usually don't have a lot of other equipment that we take because our days are so filled up, but we do accept special project requests. It's kind of a formal procedure, and you can, again, contact me if you're interested, and I will give you all the information. So our data are publicly available, and yeah, there's going to be more detail in the next slide. Yeah, and here you can see the open data and tools. We have created what's called a fisheries one-stop shop, where people can access most of the data that have to do with abundance. Then there is a stock assessment survey data, the ACFIN page, where you can get the actual biomass estimates that we produce when we come back from our survey. You also can get your size and age data there. Then there's a mapping tool where you can find map. That's actually really cool, and I've showed this to a lot of fishermen. You can go on there and look for your species, and then it maps kind of like where they were most abundant throughout all the surveys. If none of these are what you really want, you can send a data request. And again, that is also on the website, but you can also contact me.
Suzanne, if I can just ask you to wrap up soon.
Okay. Yeah, so the special project I already talked about, and then next slide for the temperature maps. And these are kind of the temperature maps that you can see, and you can see this is the progress we do during our surveys. And this is what we're sending out to the local communities. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. And lastly, we have Tyann.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyann Falks, and I'm with the Office of Coast Survey. Next slide, please. All right, cool. I'm going to just drop this in the chat. So we work with the NOAA ship Fairweather, Rainier, and Contractor vessels to do our bathymetric survey work in Alaska. Some of these are not only in the Arctic. I wanted to highlight all of the Alaska stuff, but if you check out that Hydrographic Surveys project story map, that's where you can check out our progress throughout the year. Next slide, please. So what do we do? The Office of Coast Survey, our primary mission is to collect high quality bathymetric survey data for nautical charting for safe navigation for marine commerce in the EEZ of the United States. Not only are we collecting bathymetric data for the depths of the ocean, but we're also collecting backscatter data as well, which could be important for folks on this call. Yeah, we are the authoritative source of offshore depth data. If you want to know more about our mapping campaigns, you can check out those links there, the Seascape Alaska, Seabed 2030, and the NOMEX strategy. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm blasting through it. If you check out that link that I said before, you can learn more about each of these projects. I'm going to highlight Norton Sound, that's kind of close to the Arctic. This has not either been surveyed or surveyed since the 1800s. This is super important for these communities for improving tidal monitoring, tide predictions, and we're supporting USGS's modeling stuff as well. Really important for Norton Sound. Next slide, please. St. Matthews Island is also a spot that we've been surveying lately. So it hasn't been surveyed since the 1950s due to increased traffic and tourism. For birding, we want to make sure those folks are all safe and they have charts to sail on, safe charts to sail on. And the last one that is totally in the Arctic is this Arctic Port Access Route Study. We call it PARS. There's very little modern data, as we know, up in the Arctic. So we're trying to provide a route corridor along with the the U.S. Coast Guard, USCG, to establish a route for vessels to take while they are going through the Arctic, while we're continuing to collect more and more data in these undersurveyed areas. Next slide, please. Our Alaska Navigation Manager is awesome. You should get a hold of Caroline Wilkinson for any questions. She does a lot of our outreach for our local communities and the Alaska Native corporations and other stakeholders All of our data is publicly available after QA/QC at NCEI. And you can check out what we are going to be doing in the future through these out year and past planning things and through C-Sketch. And is that it? I think that might be it. Yep. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for blasting through that one. So we want to do Q&A for this group, and then we will have a couple minutes. We never have enough time for a larger discussion. If you have questions already brewing for the larger group, maybe feel free to start putting those in the chat. But first, does anybody have questions for this set of presenters? Yeah, David.
I think Shayna mentioned this, but I just wanted to make clear if a community wants to host or deploy a buoy, how would they go about doing that? Thanks.
Yeah, could you pull up those slides by chance? My last slide had that. It's called Friends of Backyard Buoys. There is a link on the Backyard Buoys data page where it says Friends of Backyard Buoys, and there's a link on there that kind of walks through the details of how to do it. And basically you'll sign up for a dashboard. So further down, 1, 2, 3, one more there. So on that website right there, backyardbuoys.org data, you'll create an account on our Backyard Buoys dashboard. You'll create a group name like ACC or Action, or you're the ones that did it last year, and then you'll be able to walk through that. And I'll just say that like it's pretty easy to use, but I definitely helped all of the others kind of get set up. So it's really about defining that spot ID. So really, if you're kind of questioning it, just send me an email, wisdom@aus.org, and I'll help you through that. But that's definitely getting it on the app has been really helpful for community members and boaters throughout Alaska.
Looks like in the chat we have a question about any more information on PARs.
Sure. What kind of information would be helpful? We're planning that project right now. We're getting it out to the No Ship Fairweather. They'll be going out starting in mid-July and collecting more data. We collected data last season in that area, so we're junctioning it with that. But I can feel free to email me and I can provide whatever additional information. Not near shore. It's pretty offshore. Kind of trying to avoid, I think that's the goal of the Coast Guard, is to keep people away from those coastal communities while transiting.
Sir, are you mapping a proposed route for PARs, or what's your role?
Yep, that is what we're doing. Is I am helping provide the instructions for the Fairweather, but yeah, we are mapping those areas per the Coast Guard's request.
And is there a chance you could be a little bit more specific of Southern Norton Sound? Or are you focusing on Stevens Pass, or which communities?
Yeah, let me get that information for you. If you want to drop your, can you drop your email into the chat, and then I can email you directly some more of that information. Sorry.
Awesome. Let's open up to a general discussion. And David, if you want to help lead,
Sure.
Feel free to raise your hand or put anything else in the chat.
So this is now opportunity to, we don't have a great deal of time, but we do have a few minutes to sort of go into some broader questions. And if I don't see hands yet, but if anybody wants to raise their hand or put something in the chat, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll start asking my questions, and then you're at my mercy. Gay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to let people know again, the port will be open, though the construction phase, there'll be a lot going on in Nome if you're coming through Nome. The other thing I will drop in the chat quickly is an article, just a recent article, local news, for our big concern that's building here. Just know that they're telling us the price of fuel, and this will affect all things in Western Alaska: freight, airfare, food, and fuel. They're telling us right now we should anticipate 2 to 2.5 times our current cost of fuel. And there's some concern that some villages may not even have fuel. There's a real concern we may not get fuel. So right now, they're not even taking orders, we're hearing, from Crowley or Vitus Marine. So we've got some issues that people are working on here on that in a big Western Alaska sense. But know that there's a lot of concern, and it will invariably, regardless of what happens or how they can maybe get us some money, the cost of things here are about to be significantly increased. So I just wanted to say that. The second is thank you all for mentioning Straight Science. It is not a replacement for talking with the tribes and tribal governments of wherever you're going. We really love it because we are hooked in with our regional radio and print media. So, and it's recorded, your project's recorded and put on YouTube. So it's kind of available to all. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you for this meeting.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I don't know whether there are any plans or efforts to try to mitigate some of those cost increases, particularly for rural communities, but that's something that anybody who feels like they have agency in that space should definitely carry that message away. It'll also be really impacting cruise budgets as well. So think about the implications of those changes for your planned activities. Oh, and Gay has just dropped that article from the Alaska News Source into the chat. One of the things that was alluded to in one of the earlier, are there other questions around the table before I jump into some of my questions?
I have a comment here.
Yes, please.
I was looking at I think Jackie might have been the one who brought the Quintidion cable up. I did look at the matrix array that we have for 2026 now, and it is not listed there. But I also found an email to a bunch of us in the community, and many of you are listed there, of an email by somebody who was the point of contact for the cable, for the Quintidion. And they shared the location, but I don't know if any of these have been serviced or changed. And this is from 2021. So I can share that again if that's, or we can reach out again to the point of contact. I don't know if it's the same person. His name is Frank Cuccio. But again, that was 2021. So if the locations are the same, then we can just use those. But I can send a quick email to find out.
If you would, please do that and share that information. I think it's a really important thing, and I can't stress enough the impact on communities when when that cable gets dragged and damaged. So that's a really important one.
Sure, we'll do.
And I thought I saw something from Byron. Oh yes. So for those who are interested, please note this message from Byron Hayes from the Marine Exchange of Alaska. Please add ops at where is it?
Ops at arcticwatch.org.
Thank you, Katie. Ops at arcticwatch.org to your daily report templates that will enable Arctic Watch to actually post your reports and hopefully amplify your daily communications while at sea. Any other questions around the table or comments? One of the things that's been on my mind since you said it, Jackie, and I know we've talked about it on some of our Friday meetings, Can you talk a little bit about the mortality events that are taking place that you've been engaging with the media on, and are there data to support so far the changing prey base that is impacting these mortality events? Thanks.
Yeah, to answer you, I mean, NOAA has the lead on that, and so I think that Josh Stewart there at Oregon State is the one I've been working with on this and had the modeling paper in 2023 and 2025. So the interest is, and there's a gray whale workshop going to be open to the public in September, but there's still die-off. Sue Moore is keeping track of that as a marine mammal commissioner. So one of that, we are seeing why I'm being contacted because it's moving into a food limited prey base, and we're seeing these major contractions and declines in prey base for these gray whales. Not just the fact that the amphipods in the Cherkov Basin have declined, but also I just reviewed a Russian paper. I mean, they have their they feed on crustaceans. We did a paper around Kodiak, so they feed on crustaceans and also shrimp that are near the bottom. So they're moving. Obviously gray whales are moving north, but they're coming back. They're stranding along the coast on the way north, and my understanding as of May. We'll see where that community is, but I think it's the concern is that another unusual mortality event may be coming forward. And so the interest is the fact that it may be indicative of what we're seeing in these major declines in prey food for these animals. And the other thing is that krill is an alternate hypothesized food base for these gray whales. They can feed in the water column, especially near the bottom where we see krill on our benthic imaging on the bottom, especially in the dark when the lights hits them. So, because they migrate up at night and come down in the day. So a real krill survey, tracking the krill would be really important. But they can only go so far until when the ice comes back, they have to head south. So that's why the interest of what's causing it. It's not a simple one-on-one, the matching up is just because the prey base and the benthos, these animals are going north to find food as well as still eating in the Cherkov Basin. But that's what the interest is what's causing it, what are the key drivers, and the fact that was brought up, the warming seawater, the changes in sea ice phenology, the lack of changing timing of the export production coming in with the spring bloom. I think all of those are in play there. The warming seawater is an impact on these animals that can't move. They make tubes in the sediments and they are more adapted to cold weather, high productivity than what we're finding.
That's really great. Thank you for fielding that question, Jackie. I know that wasn't, it's a little bit not directly related to your work, but certainly connected.
Oh yeah, because we have the longest time series for the event. And to answer your question, has it been published? We've got different pieces and different publications, but we have a paper that's in review and revision right now for deep sea research on the NPRB special issue. So that would come in. My graduate student took the lead on the caloric content part of that.
Awesome. Unfortunately, I think we could probably go for another couple of hours on a lot of these topics because I didn't even get to the tip of my questions. But nevertheless, we're at the top of the hour. I don't want to respect everyone's time. And turn it over to Katie. Thanks so much for all the presentations.
Yes, echoing David, thank you so much for all your participation. For all of you who contributed to the vessel mooring matrices, feel free to reach out to us anytime with updates. We'll continue to keep republishing throughout the season. And please reach out to us for how, your thoughts about today's meeting and how we can help facilitate meetings with smaller groups or thinking about IPY. We definitely want to continue interacting with our community. So thank you again. Great seeing everybody and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Be well.